want to first start by just thanking Technology Commercialization Office here at Ohio State. They let us use the facility today. I appreciate that. And also want to thank Catherine Kelly, who organized the agenda and everything that is about the food and the badge and everything. So I appreciate her supporting this activity. So as I mentioned, what you're going to see today is some short presentations. We're going to keep it fast-paced on technical resources that are available in the state for manufacturing. And these are primarily state-supported or state entities that can help manufacturing. It's not a bunch of contractors or consultants that are focused on getting your business. It's really almost all the entities today have some tax base or tax-supported activity, and we want to leverage those as manufacturers. And I'm from Honda. We want to leverage the technical resources in the state. And so as I mentioned, I'm Rich Spivey. I'm the Executive Director of Ohio Manufacturing Institute. You'll see a little bit on the workforce side today, the skills, skill alignment, but you're also going to see something you may not see in many or in conferences, the technical side, the technical support side, how the entities in Ohio can support manufacturers on the technical side. So I'll go through the technical landscape here. And one of the issues that many of you may be aware of, it's in quite a few reports about the not just the skills gap, but we also have a technology transfer gap or technology commercialization gap between the universities and the government, specifically labs, and getting the inventions and discoveries and the science actually to market in the private sector. So this gap, whether you call it technology readiness level TRL 456 or tech commercialization, tech transfer, applied engineering, valley of death, whatever you've heard here, this is the issues that we have in the United States and also in Ohio. However, what we're sharing today is our entities that can help the manufacturers on this side to bridge that gap or get that next generation of technology into market. So go over the technical landscape before we start with the individual presentations. And it starts with kind of an understanding in Ohio and elsewhere and globally that the manufacturings fall into kind of OEM, Tier 1, Tier 2, and below categories. And this is the value chain. This is the supply chain that you need to keep in mind when we talk about the technical support network. We actually do very well with just working within the value chain and supply chain on tech commercialization, tech development, and applied engineering, where OEMs are working with Tier 1s and Tier 1s are working with each other, such so that many of these manufacturers do not even use any technical resources in the state outside of their four walls or outside of their supply base. But that's kind of a tragedy because there are technical resources that are available, and that's what we want to highlight today. And it starts really on this end at the kind of the discovery, the science end of research and discovery, where I've highlighted College of Engineering, but basically it's the university side where the science, where the discovery, the invention probably happened. If you're in manufacturing today, the materials that were developed or the materials you're using were developed years ago, probably for a NASA or a submarine or some other high-tech use, and then they basically became more proliferated into other industries and such. So this is part of the technical landscape. Many of the manufacturers here do not work directly with the universities, but you'll see today that is a model, or that you can work with the universities as they start to engage more directly with industry. And many manufacturers today I've already talked to are engaged at the university level, specifically with individual faculty members. This is a difficult situation to have this connection with an individual faculty member, but it is possible. So what universities have done, and by the way, I'll talk about this end or this specific thing at the end of the presentations today, what OSU is doing. But what the universities have done over time is develop research centers or centers of excellence that are inside the university. Most of them are interdisciplinary between colleges and such, to extend out the resources in the university out to manufacturing. Most of these research centers or these centers of excellence are a little bit more receptive to industry, and they are doing some applied engineering. Of course, there's students involved, but it is more applied and some basic research as well. And then some universities have developed research institutes or foundations. University of Dayton, obviously, is one that's pretty well known, pretty large in Ohio, is a great example of a research institute. And then you'll see one later today that Glenn Dane, a professor at Ohio State, will talk about that is coming, that's a Center for Design and Manufacturing Excellence. Also included in kind of this industry university side are these industry university centers, including the IUCRCs. There are a very small number of these in the nation, but it's a great model, these industry university cooperative research centers. And you'll find out, or you'll hear tomorrow, you might have seen something in the news today about a new industry, university, government research center in the National Network of Manufacturing Innovation, in which EWI and Ohio State and University of Michigan will be involved in. So you'll hear a little bit about that today, but the official announcement doesn't come from DC until tomorrow. Then kind of continuing on, kind of the sweet spot in the applied engineering, which most of these manufacturers are needing applied research or applied engineering, not basic or fundamental research, are the public and private labs. We have a great large one here in Battelle as an example. We have NASA Glenn near Cleveland. And then technical centers as well are applied engineering resources that, again, working on applied engineering that's focused on manufacturing. And you'll hear today from Kimberly from EWI. She'll talk about how EWI services manufacturers in this applied engineering space. Then continuing on, many of these manufacturers belong to technical organizations. For example, if you're a welding supplier, you probably belong to American Welding Society, which does a great service convening manufacturers in that space, benchmarking, networking, consulting, having conferences, publishing information. The downside is these tech orgs are not coming to your plant and helping you apply the next generation of technology. So you have to, if you can't do that yourself internally, you'll have to find some other resources. But they're a great asset to have because they do speak your language. Also, and so today you'll actually hear from Polymer Ohio about on the polymer and injection molding, blow molding, extrusion today, what they're providing as a tech org inside the state of Ohio or for the state of Ohio. And then the industry organization, very similar to technical, but the industry orgs are focused on a specific industry, auto, ag, aerospace, medical, things like that. And they do a great service for their members. However, many of these manufacturers at this level, the tier 2 and below, don't necessarily identify themselves with auto or ag. They're a stamper, they're a welder, they're an injection molder, so they sell to all the industries. And so industry organizations have some limited scope on how they can help from a technical standpoint. And then kind of to finish off for this end here, the MEPs, you'll hear about this today, manufacturing extension partnerships. Historically, they've been providing growth services, workforce development, training, things like that. You'll hear today from James Rubel, an Ohio MEP. He'll talk more about Ohio Development Services Agency and what they provide. And you'll also hear from Gary Walzer from OH Manufacturing, which is the Central Ohio, the 11 counties in Central Ohio. They are the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program. And they're basically there for your service. They're at your service for these growth opportunities, workforce development, and connecting manufacturers to these public and private resources along this whole spectrum. And then finally, the community and technical colleges. They're not developing new technology. They're training the next generation of worker on that technology. It's a great resource to have. We had originally scheduled Cheryl Hay to talk about the Board of Regents in Columbus State. We got a call yesterday that she was requested strongly to attend the Governor's State of the State address today in Medina. And so we have a replacement. And I appreciate you got the call today or maybe yesterday, but today, okay. to fill in from Columbus State. So this is the landscape, all the technical resources that are available, kind of categorized into different elements to support the manufacturing supply base. And we have about 15,000 manufacturers in Ohio, of which 4,600 of those are in central Ohio. And many of those manufacturers do not use these resources below. And so that's what the focus of this conference is make sure those manufacturers are aware, and also the entities that work with manufacturers make sure, even if you're in this spot, make sure you understand what's in these other areas of the landscape.